ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। O Lord, lead us from unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace. Dear friends, I am extremely happy to meet you this morning. I am thankful to AMA for giving me the opportunity of meeting you all. I am also thankful to Mr. Ajay Shad, because of whom this program has been organized. In fact, he wanted me to address the students of his institution, but the space in the institution was not enough, and I wanted all the 100 students at a time, so as to economize on my time and energy. But somehow or the other, and that is how this arrangement was made, that since I was to address the MA for 4 days, as you know, 4-day lecture series is going on every day 6:30 p.m. Today is the last day. Harmony of 4 yogas for bliss and peace, and it is open to all. You can come today. It is the last day. So because I had come here to AMA for this, so I thought, instead of coming once again from Baroda for your institute, better is that we combine, and that is how this program was organized. That is why other people are getting the benefit. But it is the other way around. For whom the program is organized are missing. Many of them, very few have come. I wanted all of them, all the 100. But anyway, we have to comply with the situation, whatever it is, and whatever may be the limitations, I do not know. Now, as you know, the subject of this seminar is management and leadership, the 4th wave. Now, all of you are acquainted with the field of management, so you know the first wave of management was the British style of management. When Taylor found out the methods of work measurement, so method study, work measurement, they were in vogue. Then the second wave was the American style of management, when Peter Drucker became the guru of all, and he was very popular. The third wave was the Japanese style of management, when TQM, total quality management, zero defect, ISO, standardization, all this came in vogue. And now, slowly, the 4th wave is coming in the field of management, and that is the holistic style of management based on Indian ethos, the Vedantic style of management, the spiritual management, that is coming in vogue. The wave started as a ripple. Way back in 1992, we had organized a seminar in our Rajkot Center, Indian Ethos for Modern Management. That time it was just a ripple, a new movement had been started, and people were having some doubts in their mind whether really what we are talking about is true or not. Indore Management Association had organized a seminar way back in 1991. The seminar, the topic was Globalization of Indian Economics, the 21st Century Compulsion. Globalization of Indian Economics, the 21st Century Compulsion. At that time, we were just wondering whether we should go for globalization or not. That was a debatable topic. So, they organized this seminar, and Mr. Chidambaram, who is now the Home Minister. At that time he was not the minister, but he was the former finance minister. He had been already out from this ministry, but then as the former finance minister, he inaugurated the seminar. While inaugurating the seminar, he pointed out how urgent it was for India to go for globalization and liberalization of policies, economic matters, because our foreign exchange reserve had come to the basic minimum. But he said, but we are trying to find out the point of strength by which we can enter the international market with our heads high. This is what he told in the inaugural session. It was a 2-day seminar. I was invited to chair the valedictory session, second day. And I told, yesterday, that is during the inaugural function, Mr. Chidambaram was wondering as to what could be the point of strength by which we could enter with a special strength in the international arena market. I said this reply of this question was given by Swami Vivekananda 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. As you know, Swami Vivekananda was sitting on the last bit of rock at Kanyakumari. Before going to participate in the World's Parliament of Religion in Chicago, he had travelled all over the country. He came to Gujarat also and spent the maximum period in Gujarat, and then from here he went to Bombay, on to South India and on to Kanyakumari, and there he meditated on the last bit of rock at Kanyakumari, and there he wrote in a letter, sitting on the last bit of rock at Kanyakumari, I became condensed India. He did not meditate on any god or goddesses. He meditated on the miserable condition of the whole, his motherland, that he has seen while travelling through all the villages and the cities. He also meditated on the great glorious past of India, the greatest country in the whole world that it was. And he also meditated on the future bright India that is going to come up and how it is going to come up. He meditated on the problems and how we could get the solution. Then he found out the solution, that the problem is not with nothing wrong with our Vedantic philosophy or nothing wrong with the spirituality. Wrong thing was that we did not apply this spirituality in our everyday life. So he said, what we now want is not Vedanta, but we want practical Vedanta. And that is why he says in practical Vedanta that by the application of this Vedanta, a fisherman will become a better fisherman. A professor will become a better professor, a student will become better student, and by the same token, a manager will become better manager, and an executive will become better executive by the application of this Vedanta, the principles of Vedanta. But we did not apply these principles in our everyday life. We kept this Vedanta, the knowledge of Vedanta, in the forest and the caves. That was our mistake, and that is why 1000 years of slavery and our downfall. Now we will have to apply this Vedanta. But then he remembered the words of his Guru Sri Ramakrishna, with empty stomach no religion. Nobody will listen to your spirituality or your Vedanta philosophy when they are hungry. So first and foremost task is to remove poverty and illiteracy and other vices and superstitions and priestcraft from this nation. So that is why he thought, first of all, I will cross this ocean, go to America, bring science and technology from that country and remove the poverty of my nation, and then the nation will be ready to accept the principles of Vedanta. Many of you may not be aware, but on 12 January 2006, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was there in Porbandar when I was there. He inaugurated Vivekananda Institute of Value Education Culture, Vivek. And as you know, Swami Vivekananda's birthday is 12 January, and that is celebrated as National Youth Day in our country from 1985 onwards. During the International Youth Year, the Government of India declared that Swami Vivekananda's birthday should be celebrated as National Youth Day. So being the National Youth Day, we invited him, and then he inaugurated Vivekananda Institute of Value Education Culture, Vivek, and talked to 5,000 youths. And then he told, Swami Vivekananda is not only the great personality India only, but he is the greatest personality of the whole globe. And then he told how Swami Vivekananda inspired Jamshedji Tata to start Indian Institute of Science while they were traveling together from Japan to America in the same ship. Swami Vivekananda was going to participate in the World Parliament of Religions, and Jamshedji Tata was going for that Columbian Industrial Exposition. So, Swami Vivekananda wanted that science and technology should be brought from here, but then he said, I am going there to bring science and technology to remove this poverty of my nation, but I will not go as a beggar. Why? Because we have something very, very precious to give. What is that? The philosophy of Vedanta, which is the best method for stress management. People in America at that time were under tension. What we are passing through, America passed through 100 years back. Because now we also have got an economic boon, we are becoming economic superpower, and the same disease of consumerism and affluenza is coming to our affluent society. Of course, we have two pictures. So there are some people who are below poverty line, nothing to eat. There are some people who are excessive to eat and no control over food, and getting the diseases like the affluent countries. So we have two scenes parallel in our country. But Swami Vivekananda thought, Swami Vivekananda said, we have something very precious to give them, and that is the philosophy of Vedanta, which they are in dire need. So I will not go as a beggar. I will give something, Vedanta philosophy. In exchange, I will bring science and technology and money and remove the poverty and the suffering of my people. This is exactly what he did. So he had basically gone there not for preaching Hinduism, not for preaching Sanatana Dharma or preaching Vedanta. He had gone there to bring help, financial help for our countrymen. In the process, he gave. But it happened otherwise. He became so famous by his short speech at Chicago Parliament of Religions, by the very maiden speech, the first speech that he delivered on 11 September 1893, that was also 9/11. But we did not listen to his speech of harmony of religion, so there was another 9/11. 2001, the world tower broke. But he had already predicted it. He had warned also that if you do not accept harmony of religions, that all religions are equally true, then we are going to pay a heavy price. And we are still paying a heavy price. This terrorism, whatever you are seeing, is a perverted form of fundamentalism and sectarianism and bigotry. And this has come because they have been brainwashed, these terrorists. Why they have been brainwashed? Because they were not given proper training in our education institutions. They are all engineers and highly educated people. Why? But they were not given this message of harmony of religions. So Swami Vivekananda had already replied to this question, that we have our Indian spiritual culture. That is why Swami Vivekananda said India shall conquer the world by its spiritual culture. Now the time is coming. All over the world there is a great craze for Indian spiritual culture, Vedantic knowledge. And this Vedantic style of management is becoming very popular. Now, because I am a monk, perhaps you would not like that I should speak like this. Oh, you are boasting about Vedanta. So that is why this can be, Xerox will be given later on if you want. This is from Times of India, because it's your popular papers, that's why. Latest Times of India says, latest US fad. What is the latest US fad? Karma capitalism. Karma capitalism. From Washington, the reporter says, corporate America is embracing Indian philosophy in a big way. Suddenly, says Business Week magazine in its latest issue, phrases from ancient Hindu texts such as the Bhagavad Gita are popping up in management tomes and on websites of consultants. Top business schools have introduced self-mastery classes that use Indian methods to help managers boost leadership skills and find inner peace in lives dominated by work. The magazine calls it karma capitalism, a gentler, more empathetic ethos that resonates in the post tech bubble post-Enron zeitgeist. While it used to hip in management circles to quote from the 6th century BC Chinese classic The Art of War, the trendy ancient Eastern text today is the more introspective Bhagavad Gita. In an episode recounted by Business Week, young executives from corporate America gather in a suburban New Jersey home to hear some Swamis, that is to speak about secrets to business success, concentration, consistency and cooperation. And in one incident, a young investment banker seeks advice on dealing with nasty colleagues. But he is told, you are the architect of your misfortune, you are the architect of your fortune. Business Week magazine attributes the sudden interest in Indian philosophy to the sizable presence of Indian teachers in American B schools. About 10% of teachers at places such as Harvard Business School and other business schools, there is a very good population of Indian professors, a higher percent than any other ethnic group. So this is only 2 years back, last year, the Newsweek magazine from America brought out. Based on that report has been given. But as back as 1999, the Times of India brought out, it is the new age mantra for some of the countries leading. The heading is given, what they don't teach at B schools. What they don't teach at B schools. It is the new age mantra for some of the country's leading CEOs. In the United States, Ford has used it for understanding joint ventures, Boeing for designing executive programs, nearer home, Godrej, Crompton Greaves, Excel Industries and MTNL are some that has partaken of its concepts. Its practitioners call it Vedic management. Vedic management. It isn't a mass movement as yet, 1999, now it is becoming mass movement within 10 years. It isn't a mass movement, yes, yet, say consultants, but business leaders who have tried it out have reported an improvement in results. So what is Vedic management? To the US based Prasad Kaipa of Maithya Institute for Learning and Knowledge Architecture, it is a way of being and leading that is in accordance with Vedic principles. It helps us to see the larger design and fabric in which we operate. For another Vedic management guru, Anil Sachdev, CEO, Aisher Consultancy Services, what is essential for bringing about an organizational transformation is a change in the way you lead. Western management experts, he says, have a limited perspective with their emphasis on change being initiated by external factors. Vedic philosophy, on the other hand, believes that while such factors can serve as a wake-up call and take an organization from a state of tamas to one of rajas, aggression, the real inspiration has to come from within, possible only after reaching a state of sattva. So, there is so much of other things that are given about the Vedic management. What I was trying to say is that in that seminar on Indore, organized by Indore Management Association, that was in 1991, way back in 1991, I told on the second day that Mr. Chidambaram was telling that we want to find out the point of strength by which we can enter the international market with our heads high. The reply was already given by Swami Vivekananda, and the reply was that we have our Vedic Vedanta philosophy, which will be the next wave of management, and that in exchange of that Vedanta philosophy that we will give, we will be able to have the dealings with the foreign countries. Now, at that time, people were skeptic, but later on, as you know, now the fourth wave has already arrived. All over the world, now they are going for holistic style of management based on Indian ethos, based on Vedanta philosophy. And why? Why? Number one, globalization has come to stay, whether you like it or not, all over the world. Liberalization is there. Most of the countries have now gone for liberalization and have gone for globalization. Now it is an open market. Gone are the days of monopoly. Gone are the days of monopoly. Because of globalization, now you cannot cheat the customers any longer.